Hi, Carrie Sparks here with Empire Title, your Arizona title gal. Today here with Brian Reeve from Neighborhood Loans in Chandler. And we're going to talk about the news today. We're going to talk about what you hear, what you read in the news, and customer optimism in the marketplace. And I'm of the opinion that there should be a tremendous amount of optimism. I look at the national news and it doesn't have that level of optimism, but I'm very fixated on where the market is that I work in, that I'm in, that we are in here in the Southeast Valley predominantly, but you and I both work the entire state, so we're in tune with the different markets and stuff. But the importance of being optimistic, asking the right questions, working with the right people, creating a team around the consumer. I'd like to hear what you think about what's going to happen in the marketplace, what's happening currently in the marketplace. And honestly, when the news is interviewing people, what qualifies, ask what qualifies that person to be the professional on the news that day, or the reporter talking to, that person on a news article. Who is this person that the public is actually listening to, reading, and possibly taking the advice of? And I'd love to hear from you, because I've called you the wizard for years. One of the most talented people in the industry I've ever met is you, Brian. And what do you think's going on?
Thank you, Carrie. Appreciate that. I hate the news. It's one of my nemesises, and the reason is because most of the data, most of the stuff that I get calls about with customers, it's not even remotely right. And so I have, as you've seen in my office, I have on my TV in my office, I'm running financials every single day. I'm seeing the market, the lives, the articles. I'm seeing everything, where the market's moving, what's happening, all of the Fed releases, everything. So I'm very, very in tune with what's going on with the marketplace. And so what happens is when we look at the news, we have to look at the source, the credible source.
Right.
And so you have different news platforms that have a political agenda that is not necessarily in line with what's going on with the housing market. And so you'll see skewed stories on stuff that's either 2-3 months old, stuff that's already happened, because we are in an environment of shares, likes, and clicks. And so you might see a news article or something drop when you open your phone and you just say, oh my gosh, rates are the lowest that they've been in 10 months. And you just see this and you're seeing all these feeds and you're like, well, what's going on? This is crazy. Well, what a lot of customers don't realize is, this morning I opened up my phone and it said the rates are the lowest that they've been in 10 months. Well, that's not actually an inaccurate statement. The rates have already been adjusting, but what's triggering that? What's causing that? And so, one of the things is that we have going on with the interest rate, and I think that we're going to see a big heat up in September, is the Fed's been holding tight on their Fed rate. And so, we had inflation, June of 21, we started raising, we were at 9, we got inflation down. But the biggest number is that people have been talking about as misrepresented jobs numbers. And so on this past Friday, we had the BLS come out and their jobs number was way low. And they had to go back and do revisions for 3 months. So what that triggered is that triggered a need for, most likely, we're going to see a Fed cut in September. And so now they got to kind of reverse this. There's other data that we use outside of news to track this. Instead of just the Bureau of Labor Statistics, we look at ADP numbers. So we have other outlets that we look at to know what the true news is versus actually what a news article is out there for shares, like, and clicks. So for the average consumer, one, having a loan officer that follows this stuff and knowing what's going on and saying, hey, I just read an article, what's going on? Can you give me kind of a brief oversight of what's happening in the market? Most likely your loan officer, if they have all of these platforms and they're looking at this, they're going to have the up-to-date news and the up-to-date information. And so most of these articles that are published, a lot of them are 3-4 months old, or they're skewed. So you just need to really reach out to a loan officer that has this, that actually knows this type of content. One of the resources that I use is Housing Wire. And so Housing Wire is a good source for customers out there just to go look at, because it's not, from a political standpoint, it's not a skewed share, like, and click. It actually keeps you going on with what's happening in the news. We have some big articles that are coming out that some people aren't looking at, and they don't realize the impact that it's going to have. But if you guys notice that Trump talked about Fannie and Freddie possibly issuing IPOs, and so if they issue IPOs, what this is going to do is this is going to move them out of security. This is going to move them out from conservatorship, and this is going to change a lot of what we call the loan level price adjustments that we probably will see down the road on conventional loans. So there's a lot of things that are happening with the market that consumers just need to know, hey, I need somebody that I can trust, that can tell me when's a good time to buy, that's not going to fluff it and tell me the real story. And that's your best outlet. I get calls all the time. It's like, hey, I just heard interest rates drop. What's happened? It's like, well, they've been dropping for, the last couple of weeks. It's just when you look at these numbers, yes, they are the lowest that they've been in 10 months. So I think when we see this, we see the Fed rate cut, highly see a Fed rate cut in September, we're going to see this really heat up. And we just don't want customers saying, oh, I missed the boat. And they could miss the boat just by watching the wrong news source. Somebody that wants to paint a picture of how bad the economy is, how bad the housing market is, so they hold off, and then before you know it, they've missed it.
There's, I know that there's several loan officers that may or may not be at Neighborhood, but at other lending companies across the valley that do contact you to find out what you think about it, which I think that's quite a statement that you have those people doing. Also, I know that you do a newsletter every week. I read it, where you gather all this information together, and it's available to anybody who wants, sign up for your newsletter. But back to the media for a second, we've talked about a little bit on the politics side, but we have to also keep in mind that these are entities that are selling advertising.
Correct.
And we never want to upset the advertisers. And so there's lots of different things that go into the formula. You turn the blender on and you get what you get. But going to someone who really is analyzing the market from a number of different sources, credible, all that, and really having the consumer out there when you are watching the news, when you are reading a newspaper, when you're opening a magazine, going, I wonder what really qualified this person to be able to be the expert on this article and go into print.
I think for good loan officers, there's every loan officers fall in different categories, and so if I pick a different industry, let's just say being a mechanic, right? Your mechanics that are ASE certified, your mechanics that are paying for their subscription with Snap-on, they're paying for all these different things. They have all the tools, the resources, and stuff like that. As loan officers, we have to do the same thing. And so we pay good money every single month for these outlets, these news sources, these things, this data, this information, and knowing how to take that data in and being able to explain it to the customer in layman's terms is actually a special skill set. And we have to be able to say, hey, look, my crystal ball may be fuzzy, but this is kind of what I see the market doing. This is what's happening, and kind of break it down in more simplified terms to explain it to the customer. Your loan officers in the space right now have to have this stuff. They have to have this information. They have to have, instead of just, hey, the rate for today is this, the fee for today is this. You have to understand the market, how it works, what affects a Fed rate cut, notes over bond, 10-year treasury, all these other things that go into the financial aspect to be able to give a clear picture or a clear prediction of where the market is going. You can't really give a clear picture or clear prediction of where the market is going if you're not watching these resources and paying for these resources to get the data.
I love it. Love it. There's a lot going on in the market, and I'm glad that you could kind of, shed some light on these things and have somebody give you a call, sign up for the newsletter, schedule a time to meet with you, sit down, talk, and go, this is my plan that I would like. What do you think? Toss some things around and see what you guys can come up with for a plan. So I appreciate it, Brian. Thanks for talking about this today.
Thank you, Carrie. Brian Reeve, Branch Manager with Neighborhood Loans, 602-741-4801. Thank you.